And welcome everyone to the June 25th, 2020 development update date stream for Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. I am producer Ben McHale-Dean. With me, as always, is David Ronick-Schlauer, senior content creator. Say hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
And coming from a remote location today is Chris Joppa Perkins, our creative director.
Hey, everybody. Let's get rolling.
Let's get rolling. Let's do this. So thanks for coming, everybody. We have a pretty good show for you today. I know that there's some stuff that you're pretty excited to hear about and some stuff that we're pretty excited to share. One of the topics that we brought up last time, so we sort of hinted at, was an upcoming new website. Now, the website is well underway, and in fact, I am going to show you a little bit of a teaser for it.
Exciting.
Exciting. So here we have. Now, keep in mind before we go through this, the content is not complete, so what you're seeing right now is just kind of a base template. But we have the home page here. You'll see there's a pledge button right up the top. You have interactive menus. Again, those aren't complete. We scroll down. We see the news section, and that's all going to be updated live. This again is all placeholder content for now, but you'll have a convenient place where you can go in, check the latest news, read more articles, go into the archives, read more about that. And then if we scroll down a little bit more, we have a little synopsis of, scroll down here, a little synopsis of Pantheon, and then our screenshot section, say that 5 times fast. You click on the screens and you get the higher resolution. Pretty standard stuff, but pretty cool. And then you can right click to download them, all that cool stuff. Subscribe button. And then the menus, we'll take a look at the FAQ first of all. Now, the new and updated FAQ is kind of done in a knowledge base format, so it's completely searchable. It's categorized, so you can search for whatever question is ailing you, and you can go through the different categories and just kind of read about Pantheon. So we'll go into the race pages now. Yes, and again, I see somebody saying class pages. They're coming. It's not. We haven't coded them in yet. We do have the race pages though, and we'll take a quick look at the dwarves here, and you'll see a nice clean layout. This is all responsive design as well too, so no matter what size of browser you're looking at, you'll be able to read it easily. So we have all the information about your race, all of the racial traits, all of that cool stuff. So Dave was who's with us right now, was responsible for a lot of the actual look and feel of the website. Dave, what were you kind of going for in terms of the motif and style?
I think I was just trying to get, we've kind of been branding the last year and a half, and I was trying to bring that and incorporate that into the website, just a clean, modern look. Obviously we're a classically, themed, a classically sort of influenced MMO, but I think we're trying to, sort of head into the future a little bit, and I think
Right.
we wanted the website to represent that. So just kind of clean, modern, very easy to navigate. By the way, I don't think Ronick looking for his corpse is news, but okay. I think that's like old news. But yeah, I think it's just, it's all about the branding, and website is sort of the equivalent of a movie trailer. If you're not excited, that's pretty much the front lines that somebody hears about the game, they're going to go to the website first. And I think that this is the equivalent of our trailer, and it's got to look good and again, just be easy to navigate and enticing. And I think that's what we were going for.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with that design and sort of the theme, the style of Pantheon. Now the what was I going to say? Slipped out of my mind. But this is just the first phase of the website. So you'll see all of the front pages. You'll see all of the information that you're used to seeing. Like I said, you have that knowledge base there too. All the class info, race info. We'll have some lore info in there as well. Different pledge packages and stuff. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 is coming later. That will be new forums and a new storefront. But for right now, we're kicking out phase 1. That should be coming pretty soon. In a couple of weeks, I think. So
Very soon.
Very soon. So Moving on then, the thing that I believe most of you are gathered here to hear about is a little thing called Pre-Alpha 5. So what to expect for
What's
Pre-Alpha
that,
5?
dude?
What is Pre-Alpha 5? Well, I can tell you what to expect from it. So Pre-Alpha 5 begins with kind of what we're calling a Pre-Alpha shakeout. Now what that is just it's turning the lights back on, it's kind of shaking out the dust, making sure that everything's running and operating correctly. Just general stuff like being able to log in, making sure that there are no fires and that sort of thing. We do a lot of automated testing, but there's no equivalent of having live people come in. And besides, you guys have waited long enough, I think, to be able to get back into the game. So that's going to take place over a course of a weekend. So there are going to be 6 play sessions, 3 on each day. And for our VIP pledgers who are partaking of PA5, you should be able to get into 2 of those sessions on that weekend. Now that's the shakeout. That's kind of the kickoff. That's where all things start. During that time, you'll be receiving instructions too on the kinds of things that we need feedback on. We know you're going to want to get in there and play and check out everything, but for this first shakeout, really we're going to need some specific types of feedback. So again, if you are a pre-alpha pledger, make sure that you go to the pre-alpha forums once we get things rolling and check out what we're looking for, the kind of feedback that we're looking for. So Zoe may ask you to roll a shaman and cast 3 spells, or Joppa may ask you to climb a rock, or Ronik may ask you to help find his corpse, that sort of thing, But that kind of data will give our team the kind of information that they need to optimize the realms and fix bugs, increase performance, that sort of thing. Basically shaking out the dust. It's now over the next few weeks, over the next coming weeks, you can expect to receive an email from us outlining or giving you your selection of sessions that you want to join in. We'll do our best to accommodate. So expect that within a few weeks. What else? Oh yeah, so what you can do now is make sure that your email addresses are all up to date. And we will be making an announcement when we send that out, just to make sure that you don't miss it by chance. And of course, CS is at the ready for any problems that might arise if you haven't received the email once we send it, that sort of thing. Yeah, so after the shakeout, some weeks after the shakeout, then we'll open things up a little bit more, so you'll be able to do the actual some more organic testing and play a bit more of the world, that sort of thing. But for now, we've got to do the shakeout. So that's pretty much what you can expect for PA5, at least the PA5 shakeout. I'm just scanning to see if you guys have any questions. Feel free to toss them up in chat there. Alpha, Quasio, the alpha is going to operate a little bit different than pre-alpha. There may still be sessions, but I don't want to say too much about it because it's still a ways out. So, but at some point we will open things up so that you guys can play for longer than just a session here and there. But pre-alpha is definitely sessions, yes. Okay. I'll just give this a second or two, see if I have any more questions before we move on. Grumpy TV is asking how long is a ways out. Alpha, I can't give you a date on that. I wouldn't even want to attempt that because I know you guys. You'll lock me into it and then.
Well, and PA5 is going to be pretty critical as well. Just the kind of data we're able to gather in PA5 is going to set the stage for what that roadmap looks like to Alpha.
Yeah. Okay, so we will. You guys can keep those questions coming. We can always come back to it. For now, though, we do have a little bit of a video reel to show. Now, pre-alpha 5, again, expect gray boxing, expect bugs. We're going to talk a little bit about gray boxing, why that's such an important part of development. A lot of the world in PA5 is gray boxed, so I just want to make sure that you understand that. And Joppa now is going to kind of go through the reasoning behind that. But out in the background, I'm going to show you a little bit of gray boxing in the new. Actually, Zop, do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to show a little bit of footage from the new Black Rose Keep zone. So it's funny because just a couple days ago, I think in one of our Discord channels, Basram TV linked some videos from PAX East 2018. So I was going down memory lane a little bit, and that's when we first announced Black Rose Keep, and kind of themed that trip around that dungeon, that keep. And so it's pretty exciting to see the changes and the things that have developed internally since that time, just with the world as a whole. And I'm going to say a little bit about that as we kind of get further into the reel here. But one of the biggest points of feedback that we got during pre-alpha 1, 2, 3, and 4 was that while the world, the Terminus was beautiful, was compelling, there was a sense of lacking in scale, and just the scale and the size of the game world. And we took that consideration very seriously, and we're kind of feeling it ourselves. And much of what we've been working on during Project Fairtail has to do with the world layout, the world size, scope. And while there are several new areas of the game world that have been developed and are online, we've also been able to spend some time revisiting some of these earlier areas as well to make sure that they're truly standing up to the standard of world scale that we want and that we know that the community is hungry for as well. Let's go ahead and roll it, and then I'll talk about it. We're going to take a look here at Black Rose Keep. You have that rolling yet, Ben?
It's rolling.
Sweet. So,
guys, let me know if the audio is too loud too. I have some audio in the background, but
yeah. So the best way to coin what we're going for with the scale and flow of Pantheon's game world and the travel within it is that it all serves to create a sense of arrival. That's another way to think about kind of what we were hearing with in some of the feedback earlier on, is that if the world is too small, if the areas within the world are too small, if there's not enough distance to travel between point A and point B, that sense of arrival is going to be missing. That sense of seeing things off in the distance, or that sense of feeling like I've traveled a long way to get here, and so actually getting here feels really important. So that was one of the reasons that pushed us to pick up Black Rose Keep and move it to a different location. It was before in Avendir's Pass, and while there were, obviously lore-related reasons, and it was intentionally placed where it was, it gave us an opportunity with what I was talking about before to really rethink, like, okay, where do we really feel like Black Rose Keep could sit in the world, to where it's not just something that you're seeing from across, maybe the first or the second zone that you come to, but it actually involves quite a bit of traversal, and even some fairly difficult traversal to get there. So what we've done is we've taken a couple of key shots. We're also being very intentional and very careful about what we show, because as we've talked about many times before, there's being in open development, there's always a balance between showing meaningful progress, making sure that we're being consistent and transparent about the progress that the game is making, but also wanting to always keep hold enough back to where there's not fatigue when the game launches, where areas have just been overexposed. So let me say a few quick things about the keep itself and this area itself. The first thing you're going to notice is that while we've shown the keep before in the past, there's plenty in these video clips to let you know that the keep itself has undergone quite a bit of change, in the form of expanding it, breaking it up into multiple layers, and then even incorporating what to me is some incredibly impactful landscape and world composition we're seeing here, with the differences in the elevation, the differences in just the topography and the geometry of this play area. Obviously not just pretty to look at and interesting to look at, but when you consider the climbing system and the full scale climbing that we have, it's just another example of how our gameplay spaces are fully embracing not only the horizontal aspect, but the vertical aspect, very much so. It should always be the case that there would be multiple ways for you, depending on your level range, depending on your climbing skill, depending on multiple different factors, to approach and access different areas. So we're super excited about Black Rose Keep and what it's become, the kind of identity that it now has. We feel like nestled in its new and permanent location. The other thing you're going to notice too is that it's not just the keep itself, but there's an entire zone really dedicated to this, and not just in support of Black Rose Keep, but Black Rose Keep sits within a larger zone that has many other points of content in it as well. And it's going to be, for our pre-alpha testers, a very consistent theme that they're going to be seeing throughout all the different gameplay areas, is that you're going to be enjoying a much larger scale and context of the different areas that make up Terminus now, that we've been able to really revisit and kind of carry, take what we've learned, the feedback we've gotten, and then start imbuing that into the scale and the scope and the layout of our zones. We've also got here, just it's been a while since we've shown some nighttime, and while this still being in a gray box state, we're not spending a ton of time right now dialing in, the every little touch and detail on, things like lighting and atmospherics and things like that. These are really, again, just enough to be representative. And gray box is always really a spectrum. You can have a gray box that's completely primitive, circles and spheres and squares and rectangles, or you can have gray box like what you see here, which is what we would call presentation gray box, which is fully representative of shape and contour and space that the actual geometry takes up in the game world. And the reason for that is not only because it looks a lot prettier, which it certainly does, but it also is what allows Graybox to serve its ultimate purpose, which it's going to let us build these places out as we've done. And because it's essentially one-to-one geometry, just without final textures and kind of that finishing pass, it's going to allow us to place NPCs in all of our game systems in a legitimate way. With Graybox, it's the visuals that are representative, it's the visuals that are footprinted, but the gameplay is able to be layered in legitimate and full form ways around it. So, if you're like us, it's amazing how when you factor in composition, when you factor in the scale, when you factor in the elevation, and then the context of the gameplay, the setting, the lore, it is a striking environment. And whether zones are in a more of a final art form, or as this one in more of a gray box form, it's amazing how little ultimately it detracts from the sense of experience and the impact that the zone has, even visually. And then how much more, as we get to the point where we're able to start finalizing the art in some of these areas, it will only be that much, more of a step forward. So we were excited to show this, really excited to use this as an opportunity to talk about that sense of arrival and to really come into PA5. It's one of the things it's one of the main data points we're looking for, is now that more of the world, more of this, first continent of King's Reach is coming together in its entirety in terms of all the different zones, their connectivity, being able to run, continuously from, Thronefast to Ferrethale, for example, and make that full run on foot. We're going to start paying very close attention now in pre-alpha 5 to player population, player movement, player push, migration, bottlenecks, congregation points. Where are players naturally drawn to? Where are the community points naturally happening? And that's something that we want the pre-alpha testers to come in with a really good kind of focus on, is what does the scale and feel and flow of Terminus feel like now compared to when it was last experienced. And I think the impact's going to be felt, and I think it's going to be amazing. So we're really excited about it, and I'll leave it at that.
And I think it's important to just know that, like, you know, from the get-go, we've always said the game, it doesn't matter how pretty it looks, it's how it plays. And I think what you're starting to see, or what I'm seeing being in game, is the world coming to life, and that, you know, it feels not, you know, just like a visually pretty thing, but the game is a game and it's fun and you want to be there, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to just for if anybody's having a hard time visualizing the change from the gray box to actual end product, I'm just going to show you the teaser from November rather, where gray boxing eventually ends up. So you'll remember this trailer. This was for Fairthale, and it was built in much the same way, you know, with gray boxing and whatnot. So this is eventually what we can look towards as a shipping product. But for now, gray boxing just allows us so much more opportunity to expand and to tweak and to get things knocked out a lot faster than trying to put polish on it before it's complete. So
I have to give it just an absolutely massive shout out to our senior 3D artist, senior environment artist. The Jimmy Lane is just absolutely phenomenal, and I'm glad you showed that trailer, because it's going to give viewers a real perspective in you know, someone like Jimmy, the just the vast spectrum of his talents, his ability, both in a gray box. When you can make a gray box setting and environment come as fully to life as Black Rose Keep, that's some real amazing stuff right there. But then the Oldwood shot that Ben just showed there, that's where all this leads. I mean, that's what final art looks like. And one of the main reasons we wanted to do go to that distance in Oldwood was really to set that mark, draw that line, and say, you know, this is, for anything you see in gray box, that really is just a snapshot of an in progress point, but the finish line is beautiful. But it's also an opportunity, not just with Jimmy, but, you know, to call out Tim Wadlin, one of our game designers, with you know, thinking through the layout of the Black Rose Keep zone. Justin Gerhardt, Jan Gerhardt, obviously our lead writer. Jared Pullen. I mean, I could go down the whole list. It's dangerous when you do that, because you don't want to leave anybody out, because there's no one to leave out. But I just have to give such kudos to the development team and all the different aspects that the zone represents, because it's just amazing. Cannot wait to get our testers in there.
And while we're at it, and again, it's tough. You don't want to leave anybody out, but I do have to send a shout out to the programmers as well, who've been working so hard on this past milestone as well. Some internal magic has really happened, and over the past few months especially, it's crazy to see the steps forward that we've made. From both the front end point of view, but also on the back end, it's night and day. So thanks to all of those guys, the QA team as well, working in there, trying to keep up as best as they can. So thanks to all of you guys too.
Man, it just compliment Congo though. Oof, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but I guess I'll go with it. Sure, why not? You guys want to take some questions?
Yeah, we've got a few minutes.
We've kind of answered this, but it might be, you know, given the fact that we just showed this video, it might be worth reiterating. D4RK Mask wants to know, how are you guys planning on approaching climbing in its ability to skip groups of mobs you intend players to face?
Yeah, this came up. I remember when this question came up. Oh, it came up in the last Dev Roundtable, and the answer is simple. If climbing exists, and if you are able to develop your climbing skill to the point where you can circumvent a group of mobs, then the game is designed for that to be okay. There's a difference between leveraging your skills and abilities to exert player agency over an experience versus tampering with or exploiting, you know, certain things to gain an unintended broken or, you know, exploitative result. And so and I'm not going to get into the difference between those two things for now, except to say climbing exists to be fun and to be adventurous and to give players a sense of being able to have a completely new sphere of gameplay to manipulate to create the kind of outcomes they want to create. That's one of the most exciting things about the climbing system is the kind of emergent gameplay and the creative and the type of ingenuity that we expect to see within the constraints of the system. And we've talked about that before. You know, there's going to be increased vulnerability to you when you're on a climbing surface. You're going to be managing resources like endurance based on your climbing skill and equipment to dictate how high you can climb, how fast you can climb, how difficult it is to knock you off. So there's constraints within the climbing system, but if you're working within those restraints and using the system to do, you know, certain things like that, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Sorry, Ronak. I actually want to address a question that Sotetsu brought up as well. We've answered this in the past too, but I think it's important to reiterate, asking about can we even give a ballpark of a release date. I'm going to kind of broaden that question to any date, particularly like further out dates like alpha or beta or release. One of the biggest reasons why we don't do that is because of the way that we're funded. So, as you know, Pantheon is largely crowdfunded. So that sort of sets the pace at which we're able to develop. Now, as we get more funding, if crowdfunding peaks, that can have an effect on it. Or if we get a larger investor, that can certainly speed things up. So it's very difficult to say that it'll be at such and such a date without knowing the cadence of that funding. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
So I'm just going to ask a few here. SN Pantheon wants to know, will Black Rose Keep be a perma-night zone?
No, it is not a permanent night zone. It's been shown at nighttime in the past and currently because it's one of the zones we're using to dial in our nighttime settings. But overland zones in Pantheon will have a true day-night cycle to them. So you will see all of them in daytime and nighttime and in those transitionary times as well.
Cool. Toadman Bear wants to know that we mentioned we moved Black Rose Keep. He wants to know where. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but he wants to know if there's new lore to support the new location.
Absolutely. The lore supporting Black Rose Keep has not changed in the sense that the location that we had it previously and the location we have it now, everything still stands. There was no breaking of the lore or even a need to revise the lore. It's just that within those parameters, we were able to find a place that was just as fitting, but also allowed for more distance. And even, I would say, if anything, is even more in line with the lore than it was in terms of just the I guess believability of a keep and a force like Black Rose Keep and like the Black Rose and Amani Karos being just tucked a little bit too close to Throne Fast before now enjoying, you know, much more of a buffer there. That makes a lot more sense, especially when you weave it into the kind of topography and you know where Black Rose Keep is settled now. It only really resonates even more with the context and the story of Black Rose Keep. So it's in a really good spot. But no, I'm not going to tell you where it is. You'll have to find that on your own.
I think.
Sorry, I'm just going to take one from Vandrad real quick, asking about for anybody involved in pre-alpha pledge, if they can sign up for all the sessions on the Shakeout weekend. The answer is no, and the reason being is because we have to balance the realms. If we have to, it's partially that, but we also have to balance our own sanity. So we can only track so many people at a given time realistically without it just becoming, you know, useless information to us. So yeah, it's going to be limited to 2 sessions per person.
I was just going to follow up with talking about the Black Rose Keep move, and I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, and I won't say too much, but I mean, CP, they can expect that won't be the only change since the last time they were in game, yeah?
No, that is not.
So Pantheon Plus wants to know, Ben, are there going to be asset packs, pictures, art, etc., for content creators on the website?
In fact, Dave's doing that right now.
No.
Look at that face. No, a fan site kit is absolutely something that we're going to be working on. I don't think it's going to be ready for site launch, but I am serious. Dave is actually going to be putting it together.
Just not
but
right now.
not right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we'll have logos and stuff. Along with it is going to be stuff like style guides, like proper use of the logo, that sort of thing. But yeah, we'll have that ready for you soon.
Let's see what else we got here. I'm actually curious about this, CP. You're probably not ready to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do we have any idea when we're going to see the racial actives? I'm just going to put you. I'm just going to put you on the spot and ask you all the questions you don't want to answer.
Tomorrow.
About the same time as I'm getting to do those fan sites.
Yeah. Guess what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously it's still very much on the list to get out to you guys, and with everything going on really since the turn of the year and all that we've been doing to get ready for PA5, it's just continued to drop down, some spots on the list perpetually. So, but it really is something that should coincide with the website. I can't say that I'm going to have those ready to roll in by the time the website launches, but my goal is to be somewhere in the vicinity of that, so that those pages, the race and the class pages, are able to be as up to date as possible as soon as possible.
That's something else that that we don't really talk too much about, but with this new website, it's allowing our content creators like David and our community managers like Kilson and Brass to be able to put stuff up as it happens and to put up their own content. Prior to that, it was a bit more complicated of a process, and the reason for that is just the way that the site was created in the early days. It just didn't allow for that kind of dynamic updating, but now we'll be able to do that. So you can expect a lot more frequent of updates. And a lot more juicier updates too. So
yeah. So once I mean, I don't think CP. I don't think you're going to have it in the next couple of weeks when we get the website. But as soon as you do, we'll be able to add it to the pages very easily.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. You have any, Ben, that you were fielding that you wanted to?
Oh no, I thought you were taking them all.
No,
I haven't seen any jump out at me today.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we can talk about if this is the last PA or not. Yeah. I think do we have anything else? Maybe.
Do we have some patch notes?
We do have some patch notes.
Why don't we do some patch notes? Dave, do you have like a song for us this stream? Weren't you gonna?
I'm working on it.
Sing us a song, like a little patch note song.
Patch notes.
Okay, stop singing the patch note song.
Mm-hmm.
All
okay.
Right. What are the patch
I'm not a bard. I gotta work on that one.
That was beautiful.
It brought tears to my eyes, that's for sure.
All right, so as usual, I'm just going to read through these, no particular order. Here we go. This is over the last month. These are not representative of all patches, obviously, the internal work that's been done. This is me just pulling out some highlights. Here we go. Zone lines now default to spawning you at your previous location, but in the new zone, meaning that hitting zone lines will feel much more organic because you will end up on the same spot on the other side. Teleport to zone has been implemented now, allowing you to enter a location marker mask to specify where you want the character to be spawned. And so this is going to govern things like, some of our world teleportation. If we have, a wizard that wants to travel from, to a specific gateway, this allows us to set those locations up now, and also allows for, especially in prep for PA5, making sure that there's a specific starting point for each of the classes uniquely. Things like the Dire Lord, for example, not starting right next to the village inn, but actually having more of a lore and class fantasy appropriate place to start, things like that. Finishing passes on Black Rose Keep Zone, the gray box, and the keep itself in prep for the PA5 testing coming up. We implemented our new login screen layout and art, as well as our character creation screen and the 3D and 2D art for that, and are in the process of implementing the new loading screen layout and art.
That's cool. I love that loading screen art. It looks
Yeah,
so good.
That's right.
It's a small thing, but it's very refreshing
Yeah.
and very fitting.
The last one that we used was from JP Target, and he's a fantastic artist too. But that was 2015. So now we have the current art style. So it's cool. Looks good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna feel really nice for sure. Two-handed slashing combat idol. These are some animations that made it in over the last month. The combat idol for two-handed slashing, and then the auto attacks for two-handed slashing as well. For now, this is going to cover two-handed swords, axes, and maces and hammers, though down the road we'll probably differentiate between the blunt and the slashing types for that. We have the unarmed hand-to-hand combat idol and the hand-to-hand auto attacks. These are different from the monk, who would be more, the monks. There's monk-specific hand-to-hand auto attacks and just animations in general. But then there's also the basic unarmed combat stances and auto attack animations, and then also the two-handed staff combat idol and auto attack animations. We're also in the midst of Ross Armstrong, our animator. We're doing some polish passes on the spell casting loop, the channeled spell loop, and then the directional and targeted release animations, or the firing animations for the spells. Couple of cool things on the tech art front. Our technical artist Bruno Rhyme, he was able to finish up our lava/sap shader system that is going to be used pretty widely in the Sleepless Isle of Infinite Storm encounter and environment that we've showed, and then is going to enable us to one of the scorching environments that we have planned for the near future, and be able to leverage that shader as well. And then also some major improvements and fixes to the visuals and the performance of our new fog and water surface systems. So always an eye on the aesthetic quality, but also the performance of these things. So we've managed to get some pretty significant improvements in for those over this last month. The phase 2 art of the player and the NPC chat bubbles and the underlying functionality has come in, and they're looking fantastic.
Great.
Yep. It's cool. We talked a little bit about it on last month, but it's cool how much that really adds to just the immersion of the game. I don't know if I'm using that word properly. It's probably not immersion, but just feeling a part of the world, I guess.
It's a quality thing too. I mean, there's
it's quality of life. Yeah.
Just a visual quality, a visual polish that it brings, and it just the aesthetic of it just feels like it's meant for and right for the world and the art style, and it's very nice.
Yeah.
This is a big one. We've now been able to convert all current race-specific NPCs, humanoid NPCs, to use the player character models. So, for a long time, we've had a mixture of some placeholder models. As we've gotten our player character models finished and implemented, we've now been able to complete the process of transitioning all of the humanoid NPCs that are any of the player races. So all the human NPCs, all the ogre NPCs, gnome, elf, halfling NPCs, they now are all using the player character models. So that's just part of that kind of that normalizing of the NPC population to feel more native and kind of at home in Pantheon. So you're not running around as a human and then seeing other humans that are a different model. And then in addition to that, there's been a pretty deep refactor of the Npc animation architecture, which has allowed us to bring them identically in line with the player characters in terms of the animation precision and performance. And some examples of what that means is that NPCs are going to be able to have their lower body and their upper body animating independently. So just like player characters are going to be able to run and swing their weapons without sliding on the ground, NPCs also, a bear is going to be able to run and then swipe at you while they're still running and not go into a swiping animation where they slide, 5-10 feet along the ground until they finish. So it's a pretty cool polish there, but also just the precision of the animations. And again, the performance that comes with some of the refactoring that was done is pretty cool. Pretty cool to see. And again, part of just bringing the quality, the polish factor of things up to our goal. We've got a check-in for NPC chat text with italics, and that when the system detects that an NPC is saying something in italics or that is italicized, it knows that is meant to be something that the NPC is saying to themselves or something essentially that you are overhearing. And this is a small detail, but I know a lot of people listening are going to really like this. And that typically when an NPC says something, they say it in quotes, it shows up in the chat bubble, and in the chat log it says, so-and-so says whatever. When it's italicized, it will say so-and-so mutters, and then it will read it in the italicized way. And that's a cue that you are hearing something either that the NPC is saying to themselves, like they're talking out loud to themselves, or that you're in a state where you are overhearing something that the NPC is only going to say if they think they're alone. I think we referenced that last time. So you can tell where we're going with that. We've had some significant blocking and zone development done and continuing to be done on Silent Plains, the massive major zone that is the connector between Fairthale and Avenger's Pass, and I'll just leave it at that.
You almost got him.
We've normalized several font types, sizes, and the resolution across all of the new user interface assets. So you've been seeing a lot of UI things coming from us over the last several streams and months, and just continuing to kind of bring that down to its full final form in doing some of that normalizing where we make sure that the font types are what we want and all the same font size, the same font style, and the resolution of the different UI elements are all consistent. So you have a nice harmony between all the different UI elements in the game. And last would be the support for interacting with mesh objects on the client. This is a really significant one. It has a lot of implications for the perception system. The storyline mechanics video we put out not too long ago, there was some feedback on, are all of these going to be clickable, or only some of them going to be clickable? And then, how difficult it is to actually hover over it, kind of that pixel hunting. That we just put that video out when we put it out in the process of that system still being developed in some ways in those underlying mechanics. That simple update line there, support for interacting with mesh objects on the client, means that now we're going to be able to key triggers and click triggers and things like that off of the actual mesh collider of the object. Meaning, if we have a very complicated shaped object like one of the roots in Oldwood, or the bundle of mushrooms, things like that, we can apply the click trigger component to them in mass, meaning that every single one of those roots, we don't have to go in and hand place a trigger on each one. We can just go to the root itself, the object, and say, okay, put a trigger on it, and then every single root we use in the scene, as it's just duplicated and placed in different places, will all have that trigger, and it will be keyed to the actual mesh or the actual outline of the object. So anywhere you hover over the entirety of the object, it's going to receive that trigger, and you'll see the cursor change. So this is going to just make that system a lot better. It's going to feel a lot better as a player. Number one, it's not only going to be a few select versions of the prefab. You know, if the mushrooms are interactable, then every single mushroom placed in that area is going to be interactable. If a root is supposed to be interactable, every single root is going to be interactable, and it will have a nice precision being tied to the mesh, the outline of the object itself. So lots more we could say, but those are the highlights, and we'll stop there.
Those are some mighty good highlights.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we spilled a few beans tonight. So, folks, thanks for coming. Dave, do we have any? Look, my mouse. There is my mouse pointer there. Wow, I know what's causing that too.
Yeah, thanks. It's been on me the whole time. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It's like finally, I'm not looking like Super Mario Brothers circa 1984, and you got
Eat
pointer
cursor.
on me.
Eat cursor.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just I installed a new version of OBS, and I know what's doing that, so I'll fix that up for next time. In any case, thanks everybody for coming. Do we have any last questions before we wrap her up?
I stopped looking.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Thought we were done after patch. That's my bad guess.
Okay.
Should be back on video next week, so I won't be staring at anybody anymore.
We had to do a lot on camera in your absence to make up for it. Once you see the stream, you'll be like, wow, those guys never knew they had these talents. All right, thanks for coming, everybody. Just as always, remember that Pantheon is a crowdfunded game. Your pledges make this happen. So we thank you all for coming to support us in this way and in that way and in any way that you do support us. And you are some awesome supporters. So thank you for that. We will have those emails out to you in the next few weeks in terms of signing up for the pre-alpha shakeout sessions. That is, if you're a pre-alpha tester, pledger. Those pledges are still available if you want to go to pantheonmmo.com, hit that pledge button, and we still have some VIP pledges available there. David, Joppa, anything to say before we head out?
Can't wait to see you guys in game.
See you in game soon. Onward and upward. Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.